when people say the time, do the market research, fill in the blank. It's not fill in a key word. It's fill in the pain point that they're experiencing. What are they experiencing off of one sales call? That'll give you all the info that you need. It might be a loss on no sale, but guess what? You just learned all of these pain points. Yeah. That's worth a lot. That's value right there. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I would say. And if it's not working after 100 or so messages, change it up.
Yeah.
Try something new. Don't be scared. Follow up. I mean,
exactly,
you're never going to meet the people. It's okay.
All right. Welcome everyone to a new YouTube video. Today I have Colton Jenkins. He's one of our top students. Colton and myself, we go back like a tighter year, and we've like had our, I don't know, like just a very, very long history together. And he's been through like a lot of stuff with his own agency, invested into a lot of programs, and he's been able to like surpass the 10K a month mark. So what I want to do actually in this interview is just like pick his brain, see what he's actually done throughout the entire journey to really go from zero to that point with his agency and how he really made it happen. So Colton, I'll let you take the word here so you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the introduction, Bass. It's great to hear from you. Great to see you, and really great to be on this call with you, this interview with you today. So my name's Colton Jenkins. I've been doing a little over 10K a month now for the past few months. I started doing Facebook ads almost 5 years ago, and that's actually how I got into this industry space. Really wanting to take it to the next level with doing social media marketing. As he said, I bought a bunch of courses from all kinds of gurus, experts, all that crap over the years, and it just didn't work. So when we got linked up together, we just shot a bunch of ideas off of each other, and I learned so much from Bass. I learned so much from him. And then after just implementing it and then talking more about it, I mean, it just really blew up, man.
Sweet. Love it, man. Yeah, great intro, Colton. So first question I want to ask you is like, how did you get into the social media marketing agency space? You said it goes back 5 years, but where does that start for you?
Yeah, so I was in college actually going to school for psychology, and I had a cousin who lived in Australia, and he was writing for the Huffington Post, doing little articles and blogs and all kinds of stuff. Never saw him doing it. Well, I flew out there to go see him and his fiance for 2 weeks. Now, his fiance was just a few years older than me, but she had a very top position in some big web design company. Okay, it's one of the top web design companies in Australia. They did Qantas Airlines, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, all kinds of different, top brand companies, Fortune 500 brands. And it really interested me because, they lived this lavish lifestyle. It was beautiful, sliding glass doors to the beach. I mean, like, it blew my mind away. It was like staying at a resort, right? And I was like, man, like, what do you guys do? Like, how'd you get into it? How'd you get about it? And, they told me all these little different things, and I've been, saw all these videos online. And so I kind of knew what they meant, I understood it a little bit, but, I never saw it myself. You always see videos of people being extremely successful and doing all the stuff, but you never see someone off the street or someone in your family, right?
Yeah.
So when I had that insight, I just had to go all in. So when I was in college, I graduated, it was my last semester. And I said, look, if I can get a client during the summertime, then I won't go to school. I'll continue to do this because this is something that I want to do, something I'm invested into. I gave myself 3 months, a full 90 days. And within 1 month, I grabbed a client. And so that's how it started.
Got it. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sweet, man. And what's been like your personal motivation, to really just start and not stop?
Absolutely. So my first starting point, my why has always been my little brother. He's 10 years old now. We have a 14-year age gap. So being able to be that confidant in his family, being the fun guy, but also someone who can take him around the world, show him things that most people can't do. There's always been something I've wanted to be able to provide. However, that's all nice, and reality hit. Grandparents get sick. We're really the only people left in the family that can do something about it, and no one can do it financially. So someone's got to step to the plate, right?
Yeah.
And that just drove me. And once I started seeing, more clients come in, and again, it's not about the clients coming in, but the success you bring to them.
Yeah.
Because that keeps the business. And then you're like, listen, we're helping X amount of people. It's just a plug and play. It makes it so smooth. And then, you see the potential you can get to. You're like, well, why stop? Why would I stop here? Why would I settle? I got comfortable for a few months, but why would I settle?
Yeah.
It was nice, but
yeah. 100%.
There's more to it than that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, man. And, like throughout the journey, Colton, because you've been like in the game, like we could say 5 years, right? Like what were some of the major things you had to sacrifice, right? Like whether it may be a person or
Oh
a bad
yeah,
habit or addiction, like what was that for you?
man. So when I first started, just really just addictions, whether it be just, going out all the time, drinking, partying, hanging out with the wrong people. And really like I always tell people it's not always just being with the wrong people, but the amount of time that you're giving them.
Yeah.
If it's okay to hang out with somebody here and there, but where's your priority? What are you doing? How much time are
Hmm.
you actually spending growing your company? And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, I go out 3 times a week and I work 3 days a week and I take a day off. It's like, okay, well, how far has that gotten you? And how well can you grow with that? And they're like, oh, no, it's not going very well. I'm like, okay, so what what can you take away? Me personally was people, man, straight up people, bad habits, and being consistent with it.
Yeah.
We're all consistent with choosing the bad habits, right? That's the easy part.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, what if I, reverse psychology on it? What if I just stop that and see what happens? Like if I put that effort into it, see how much it'll grow.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. And
exactly.
Colton, like I'm getting a lot of agency owners. I actually did a story prior to your interview to like kind of see
Mm,
what they were curious to as to, like why they're still kind of like at the beginning stages as compared to you where you're doing like, 10K months and you're growing. Like
absolutely.
what has been that like secret outreach strategy you use, as people think it
Yeah.
is? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Because
yeah,
everyone thinks it's a secret sauce, right? They think it's a
yeah,
secret. They think
yeah,
that there's just like this one thing. It's not true. It's
yeah,
not one thing. It's multiple things in one action. So
yeah,
let's just say like LinkedIn outreach has been my number one game changer, right? Consistency with that.
yeah,
When you're sending automations, one thing I noticed, I was picking up some slack and I was like, well, what if I did something different? What if I manually did it for a week and just see what my conversion ratio was like? What if I took that time or hired that VA, you know?
yeah,
And it was great because then I
yeah,
was individually selecting them out. And it
yeah,
was separating a lot of the fluff that the automations were picking up because typing in the keywords and phrases weren't working the same as they used to, because as time passes, our platforms change, right? So for
yeah,
the people out there that are, at that 1 to 2 clients and they don't want to spend money on paid ads, you need to be going in with that LinkedIn. That has been, the sole game changer for multiple agencies that I've been
yeah,
a partnership with or run.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because a lot of people also, use scripts from programs, right? And they
Yeah.
just are like, Bass, like I can't get a meeting, man. Like I've tried so many different things,
Mm.
right? And when I ask
Mm.
them like the questions of how many messages have you sent out, it's like 5, right? And it's pretty weird. So what would you like tell someone to change instead of like using a script? Like what should I do instead? Like in your
Yeah.
opinion?
Well, one is I like to think of it about like a conversation. I live by the words, write like you talk. Okay. Now, if
Yeah.
you don't speak very good grammar, okay, maybe change that, add some good grammar in there. Right.
Yeah.
But the point is, make it sound natural. Think about how many people are using this kind of stuff. It's not natural. They're using scripts. If you buy a course and you use one script, how many other people have that script and they're not changing it? So as
Yeah.
you can imagine, you're just one of many and you don't stand out. So by making it personal and
Yeah.
actually filling, when people say the time, do the market research, fill in the blank. It's not fill in a key word. It's fill in the pain point that they're experiencing. What are they experiencing off of one sales call? That'll give you all the info that you need. You
Yeah.
know, it might
Yeah.
be a loss on no sale, but guess what? You just learned all of these pain points.
Yeah.
That's worth a lot. That's value right there. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I would say. And if it's not working after 100 or so messages, change it up.
Yeah.
Try something new. Don't be scared. Follow up. You're
Exactly.
never
Yeah.
going to meet the people. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a Zoom call like this at most.
Yeah.
It's okay. Don't let that fear get you. That's definitely what I would say.
Yeah. Oh, that's great advice. I love that. Yeah. And like Colton, now, you started at zero, like,
Yeah,
almost everyone really does. And how different would
absolutely.
you say your life is, like when you were making zero to compare to now where you're doing like 10K a month?
Man, it's been an incredible shift. Just a lot of freedom. If I have my time, I have my schedule back. If something happens, I'm able to make it up. I had a flat tire the other day. You know how
Mm.
inconvenient that is on a day-to-day schedule?
Yeah.
Man, it was just the inconvenience that I had to deal with it. That was it.
Yeah.
So there was no crunch. I could still get my job done. I could still do the fulfillment.
Yeah.
And all I had to do was just deal with the situation. There was
Yeah.
just absolute peace there. You
Yeah.
know, that's been game changing for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. And, like Colton, also a lot of people, including myself and maybe you as well, like we just enter with the mindset of we need to best like, business tactics and
Yes.
strategies until
Yes.
like, someone just has an epiphany that mindset is also important, right?
Oh,
So
100%.
how do you balance that for yourself? Like, mindset as well as just business. How do you balance that?
Well, you got to water your own plant. Is what I always say, right?
Mm,
And if you're always focusing on growing, putting your plant out in the sun, you don't get all the nutrients that you need.
mm,
So what I do for my mindset, making sure I'm reading, right? Actually putting good content into my brain, right? People are focused on all kinds of worldly events, which are very important to keep up with, right? To
mhm.
each their own. However, it's good to put that good content for growth because you
Yeah.
can never grow with all of the knowledge you have right now. You can't get to the next phase with everything you have right now,
Yeah.
right? Um, Being able just to look outside and relax off my balcony, 10, 15 minutes, just think about stuff. No music, nothing,
Yeah.
right? Just something to clear the space, clear the mind, whether it's taking a walk, enjoying something with my family. To me, that's how I'm able to get my good mindset. I have a little bit of good joy and fulfillment, and then I have the structure of the self, working out, reading books, etc.
Yeah. That's really good. How do you structure your day?
Man, usually when I wake up about 5:30 to 6 in the morning,
Mhm.
3 to 4 days out of the week, every Tuesday and Thursday I have a different schedule. But most of the days of the week, I get up, I'll like start my laundry, start the dishes, just to get all of that stuff out of the way. I don't like looking at it. I don't like clutter. I like it. I like to be on top of everything. So I
Yeah.
start that. I start listening to some music right away. Just no words, only sounds, classical, something like that.
Yep.
Right. I get my day planned out. From the night before, I look at my to-do list and then I restructure and organize it as in the prioritizing might change that day, right?
Mm.
Might start
Yeah.
pushing up to a number one. So once I have that done and I spend that hour and a half, I'm ready to go. Sometimes within the first 2.5 hours a day, I've done most of my hard stuff. So
Yeah.
before 10 a.m., I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. I love that. And, Colton, also, I was just curious, man, like a lot of people who are starting like are just there, right? Like just completely at the starting point. So if you could start all over knowing what you know now, what would you do?
Mm-hmm. Man, well, like that 20/80 rule. So I always focused on learning more, how to do this, how to overcome this objection and this fear. And I kept pumping this knowledge in, but it wasn't giving me the action that drove the needle. That was,
Mm.
getting the messages out, getting the replies, booking the meeting, getting on the
Yeah.
phone, sending
Yeah.
out the contract and invoice, then
Yeah.
fulfillment, right? So
Yeah.
it's so how I said it so simply, that was the key, to do those simple methods and to focus on those methods as opposed to all of this other fluff. Let this other fluff be experience. Ask
Yeah.
those questions as they come. They'll come, it's real. It's okay to be ready to handle fear and objections, but don't prepare yourself with all of the armor because it'll just weigh yourself
Yeah.
down.
Very
You know what
true.
I mean? You
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
everything ready to go and you're so cluttered you don't know how to use it and when to use it because you
Yeah.
hadn't had the experience.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what I would say.
Yeah. That's very valuable, man. I love that. Okay. And right now, like you're also in the agency cultivation community, and I've actually made a post. And people just have some questions for you, which I'm going to read out
Yeah.
now. And the first one was, Colton, how have you developed an outreach process that actually works predictably?
Yeah. So great question. As we kind of touched on in this, in this interview here, not sounding like everybody else and not sending the scripted messages, right? So by actually testing it every 100 or so, test your reply ratios, write your numbers down and do your conversions. When you find something that converts very well, that's how I know that it works. That's literally it.
Yeah.
It went from a lot of failing to actually having what works. So connecting and communicating with people that have something successful and getting maybe a message that they use would be a great way to start, and to start for free
All right.
on that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. And this one is from Katie. She's asking, what were some of the hardest obstacles you overcame? So just mental barriers or anything
Yeah.
else?
Man, I would say sometimes the client fulfillment, as someone who did the ads, I was doing them all personally,
Yeah.
handling all the accounts. I was scared to outsource because I was scared to take my job that I did and I'm very good at and give it to somebody else and just say, okay, here you go. To me, it was very hard to be able to let that go and to give trust into the hiring process and to bringing people on board. Because at the end of the day, I had fear of the client going away if someone I
Yeah.
hired didn't do well, you
Yeah.
know? And that's a
Yeah.
reality that we all experience, and some people have probably already had that.
Yeah.
So overcoming that was huge. Being able to tell people no during an interview, like
Yeah.
being straight up, like you have to filter people out, and there's so much fluff out there and there's so much inexperience that's easy to make it look good. But if you know the right questions, you'll know how long they've been doing it and what their track record of success
Yeah.
is. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I hope that answered that question properly. But that
Yeah.
would be some of the hardest things that I've experienced.
Yeah. No, that's a really good. That's a really good answer. Sean here, and this is kind of a broad question, but he's asking, what was the game changer for you? How did you decide which service to offer?
Like, man, I wish he was like on this call, like to chat in. So I'd like to like ask
Yeah.
more on that, you know, like which
Yeah,
service to offer,
exactly.
as in like how do I structure my offer to a client, or which industry to go with, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I guess if you want, I can answer both of those questions, you know, real quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Industry to go offer, just stuff I was interested in. People I saw, you know, successful businesses that I saw around me that were booming. There was more and more being developed, which means there were more chances for me to actually get someone to go through with the marketing service. You want to notice that, like when Corona hit in the States, dude, gyms horrible to go after. There's no way they can afford it. But if you didn't notice that shift and then put that effort into something else, then, you know, a lot of time passed and sometimes there's a lot of stagnance in between.
Yeah.
And then the offer, I would say, you know, the monthly retainer offer is the absolute go-to. But when you really know your industry and you know the value that you can bring to your clients, for instance, for solar, I usually do a monthly retainer that's more reasonable rather than being on the high side that my competitors are
Yep.
doing. And then I also tack in commission because I don't guarantee them sales, but our success indicates you're going to get sales,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
know that the commission is going to come through. So I have a more reasonable retainer plus commission structure package. But that came through after having 3 clients.
Yeah.
And I had to figure out, you know, what were people comfortable with? I had people tell me no up front, and I asked them why. Like, what would be more reasonable instead of going, you know, percentage of the sale? What's more reasonable for you and why? But
Yeah.
having the guts to ask that question that's how I've been able to craft those offers. So
That's
I hope
sweet.
it answered his question thoroughly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that was sweet.
Cool.
And then Jamal, this is more like of a mindset question. He's asking,
Sure.
what was more of like a limiting belief you had for maybe like, you know, a short time or a very long time that you just like had an epiphany moment of like, oh, well, this is actually holding me back. And then you changed it and then you saw growth. Like, have you had any of those limiting beliefs that you just had an epiphany moment? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah, man. I definitely want to say that one of the biggest epiphanies for me was in my outreach, right?
Yeah.
So being consistent, making sure you're doing it the 5 days, actually keeping up to how many you're doing. If you're doing it manual, you know, I was getting better conversion rates doing it manual. So for me, I was like, man, I'm not going to do auto right now. I'm going to do it manual for 2 weeks. And I got a client. And there was like 3 new sales calls. And then I was booking 6 to 7 calls a week from LinkedIn alone. And I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
like get it together, be more consistent. Even though I've got all these other things going on, I can't lose track of what's keeping the pipeline filled.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that for me, that was a big thing. And that applies to every aspect, but really for me, it was that initial outreach.
Yeah.
Once it
I
was
love
flowing.
it.
Yeah.
That's sweet, man. Dude, you're giving such good advice here. I love it.
Awesome, man. I hope I hope it definitely helps the people out there for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah. And like, you know, now that you're at 10K a month, like what are some of the ventures that you're heading for? Like, where do you want to be like at the end of 2020, or what are you going to be focusing on in 2021?
Absolutely. So towards the end of December, if things are going right, I should be close to about 20K a month without commissions. So I'm hoping to hit my marker there. I'm staying consistent with that. And then next year, I have some investments to make on a few agricultural businesses with some people I've been doing business with for a few years, and looking to kind of expand out there to duplicate my areas of cash flow, of course.
Yep.
And really to get with this agency program, man. And I want to be able to coach more people. That's what I want to do of next year. I want to, my personal goal is to step away from doing the ads and step away from the one, like really the account management stuff, and really dive in,
Oh my God.
It takes so much time, bro.
So long, dude. Yeah. Like you've been done
like,
for you for so freaking long, man.
Yeah. I'm just ready to step back a little bit, man, and really go in and help people grow. We're working on building a homeless organization in Dallas. I'm working on creating the first multi-million-dollar homeless organization out in Dallas. And I'm wanting to be able to get that project underway next year. It's going to take several years to actually get the land, get the building down, go through the process, the blueprints. I mean, it is a long process. Yeah. However, it has to start. And the only way that ticker is going to begin is when you get it started. So I have to take an initial capital investment and put that in there, and which is going to be around $100K. So that's the goal.
Wow.
Right.
That's so cool, man.
Taking this, helping. I mean, it's all about giving back and helping others, right? You learn how to automate it, you learn how to do it, and then you start providing.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at anyway. Mentally, that's how I feel is the way to go. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I also remember like your memorable moment. Actually, a few months back, you bought your girlfriend a car, right? How was that?
Did.
Like
man.
when you're able to buy your girlfriend just like a car, that's
dude. I'm gonna be honest with you. It was hilarious, man. She just got a new job, and it was doing at this place we were living. Right, she was doing apartment leasing, so we got 30% off of our rent, and I was like, bet, you know what? It's time to go celebrate. Yeah. So I took her out. We go and celebrate. We had a drink or whatever, and I'm talking to her, and I'm like, you do need a new car. You start school soon, and you can't be driving that far with that death machine you got right now. Yeah. And I was like, you've always wanted a Mustang, right? I was like, why don't we go, check out some cars? So it's we went out, looked around, and we ended up leaving. Leaving with it. And so that was really cool, just to be able to, walk on the lot and, like I said, just in some shorts or whatever, and super full. We got to-go bags and everything, and we just, we ended up leaving with the car. Just a really cool experience, man. Super cool experience.
Yeah, no, dude, when I saw the picture, I was like, shit, I directly just showed Danny, like, look at this guy, like, he's killing it. That was so cool, man. That was so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool to do, man. It was definitely cool to do.
Yeah, no, it was amazing to see. But yeah, Colton, like I've picked your brain for like the past 25 minutes, man. So I'll put the interview to an end here. Guys, if you want to check out Colton, he's going to be starting with coaching like 1 or 2 months from now as well. You can check him out in the description. I'll link his Facebook and some of his other platforms. And Colton, before I wrap this up, like what is your, like literally your best advice, like you can give to someone just starting out, or even like already that 3 to 5K month mark, which I knew like you were stuck for a long time as well. Like what kind of advice would you give to him? Yeah,
absolutely. What got me unstuck from the mud is, as I've pushed in this interview a lot, is that focus on the outreach, right? Getting that person to reply to you. If they'll reply to you, most likely they'll go to a call. And man, I was horrible at sales, and I kept trying, and I kept trying. I was like, man, I should just hire a closer and just cut the crap. Hired the closer. And then I just pushed them over. Then I had real conversion ratios. That got me from the 3K to the 6K. Yeah. And then it was like, oh, well, I need to pump this more. So my best advice is to take your messages and to structure, like call people and say, hey, I'm going to ask you a question and I'm going to see how this sounds. And I want you to actually voice it to them, because it can't be scripted. It can't sound robotic. You have to be able to make sure that people in the space are going to reply to your stuff. Like, it's game changing. You need that. When they reply, it's over. It's game over. That's all you need. Just reply, right? And you call a closer and you set them up. You have it set up. I would say that is my absolute best advice, other than don't let the fear beat you. Like there's so much shit you're going to learn over time, so much stuff that's just going to be bombarded, and you're always going to have these what if questions, and they're going to go everywhere. Yeah. The bottom line is that isn't going to drive the focus. You have to make sure your focus is driven in those key areas and then focus on that stuff in the meantime.
Yep.
But don't make this the priority. Make the system the priority. That's the best advice I can give. That's where I failed. And once I fixed it, I've done much better.
Sweet. All right. Thank you so much, Colton.
Awesome.
That was amazing. That was amazing advice.